$800,000. Say it out loud and it sounds like freedom. Put it in a retirement account, and for a lot of people, it turns into a math problem that keeps them up at night. Here's what I mean. Meet Richard, 64 years old, $812,000 saved, and he is still setting a 5:45 alarm, still packing the same turkey sandwich, still driving to a job he stopped enjoying during the Obama administration. Why? Because he's convinced that the day he retires, a countdown starts, and when it hits zero, he's broke. Now here's the twist. His old coworker retired last year with $300,000, less than half the money, and that guy is currently on a lake in Tennessee catching bass on a Tuesday, living his absolute best life. Same job, same town. One has nearly triple the savings and can't sleep, the other has a fraction of it and can't stop smiling. So the question isn't really, is $800,000 enough? The question is, what does one of these guys know that the other one doesn't? That's today's video. We're going to run the real numbers on an $800K retirement, month by month. We'll look at 3 completely different lives that same money can buy, and I'll show you the one mistake that quietly turns $800,000 into a part-time job at 74. Quick housekeeping before we start. This isn't financial advice. It's education with some flavor. Your situation is yours, so run the big decisions past a professional. Let's get into it. First question, the one everybody's really asking. How much income does $800,000 actually generate? We start with the 4% rule. If you're new here, this comes from the famous Trinity study, and the idea is simple. In your first year of retirement, you withdraw 4% of your portfolio. Every year after that, you bump the number up for inflation. Do that, and historically, your money has had a very high chance of lasting 30 years or more. Is the rule perfect? No. Some researchers argue it should be 3.5%. Some say you can push 5 if you stay flexible. But is it the best starting point we've got? Absolutely. So let's do the math. And relax, this is YouTube math. Nobody's getting graded. $800,000 times 4% is $32,000 a year. That's about $2,666 a month before taxes. Now, I can already hear some of you, Maddie, $2,600 a month? My grandkids' travel baseball team costs more than that. And look, travel baseball is a financial black hole. We all know it. Nobody's brave enough to say it at the team barbecue. But stay with me because we're missing a huge piece. Almost nobody retires on their portfolio alone. There's this little program called Social Security. You've been feeding it since your very first paycheck. Remember that paycheck? You saw the FICA deduction and briefly considered calling the police. Well, good news. That money circles back. The average Social Security retirement benefit right now sits around $2,000 a month. If you earned a solid middle-class income and you wait until full retirement age, you might see $2,200, $2,400, sometimes more. So let's stack it. Portfolio, $2,666. Social Security, call it $2,100. That's $4,766 a month, roughly $57,000 a year. Married? If your spouse gets a benefit too, even just a spousal benefit, your household could be looking at $65,000 to $70,000 a year. And here's the part that genuinely surprises people. The median American household earns around $80,000, but that's a working household. They're still paying payroll taxes, still saving for retirement, still commuting, still buying the $14 I deserve this lunch because the 9 a.m. meeting could have been an email. When you retire, a whole layer of expenses just disappears. No more 401k contributions. You made it. You're done saving. That alone might free up $500, $1,000 a month. No payroll tax on that Social Security check. No commute, which for the average American runs a couple $100 a month between gas and wear on the car. No work wardrobe, no office birthday collections for people you barely know, which means $57,000 to $70,000 in retirement can honestly feel like 80 plus did while you were working. Different picture already, right? Okay, numbers are nice, but let's make this real. I'm going to show you 3 retirements, all funded by the exact same $800,000. Think of it like a video game character screen. Same budget, 3 completely different builds. Build number 1, the comfortable cruiser. This is the classic paid-off house retirement, and I need you to hear this clearly. Entering retirement with no mortgage is playing the game on easy mode. A paid-off house is the closest thing personal finance has to a cheat code. The cruiser's monthly budget: property taxes and insurance, $500, utilities and phone, $350, groceries, $650, yes, even with eggs doing whatever eggs are doing, car costs, gas, insurance, maintenance, $400, Healthcare, meaning Medicare premiums as supplement and out-of-pocket costs, $700. Dining out and fun, $500. A travel fund, $400 a month, which is almost $5,000 a year in trips, and a life happens buffer of $400 because the water heater does not care about your retirement plans. Add it all up, and you get about $3,900 a month. And remember, the cruiser has $4,766 coming in. That's an $800 monthly surplus. That's cushion. That's spoil the grandkids money. That's, you know what, give me the room with the ocean view money. The cruiser isn't flying first class to the Maldives, but they're taking 2 real vacations a year and golfing on Tuesday mornings, partly because the course is empty, partly for the psychological warfare of texting you a photo from the 9th hole while you're stuck in a status meeting. And here's what that surplus really buys, beyond the fun stuff. Peace of mind. When the furnace dies or the car needs new brakes, the cruiser doesn't spiral. They just pay it because the plan already had room for a bad month. That's the difference between retiring on paper and actually feeling retired. That's a genuinely good life, and $800K funds it with room to spare. Build number 2, the big city battler. Now take the same $800,000 and drop it into an expensive city with, and this is the killer, rent or a mortgage still in the picture. Housing, $2,200 a month. Everything else from the cruiser's budget, about $3,400. Total, $5,600 a month against $4,766 coming in. That's an $834 shortfall every single month. The battler pulls extra from the portfolio beyond the plan. Suddenly, that safe 4% withdrawal is more like 5.5%, 6%. And at that pace, the math starts making the sound your car makes right before the mechanic asks how attached you are to it. Is the battler doomed? Not necessarily. Maybe they pick up some part-time or consulting income for a few years. Maybe they downsize at 70. But as it stands, they're one rough market decade away from real trouble. Housing is the boss battle of retirement. Shrink it or eliminate it, and you change the entire game. Build number 3, the geo-arbitrage genius. This one's my favorite. Same $800,000, but this retiree relocates, maybe to a low-cost state where a genuinely nice house costs what a parking spot costs in San Francisco. Maybe they sell a home in an expensive market, pocket a few $100,000 of equity on top of the $800K, and buy the new place in cash. Or maybe they spend part of the year abroad. Portugal, Mexico, Costa Rica, places where a nice dinner for 2 costs what an appetizer costs back home. Total monthly spending? Around $3,000, sometimes less. Against $4,766 of income, that's a $1,700 monthly surplus. This person isn't just making it work. Their portfolio might actually keep growing during retirement. They're the one posting sunset photos captioned "Office View Today," and honestly insufferable, but mathematically undefeated. Same $800,000, 3 completely different lives. The number matters less than the lifestyle you attach to it. Write that down somewhere, you'll see it. Now, if I ended the video here, I'd be doing you dirty, because there are 4 things that can quietly wreck an $800,000 retirement, and you're going to know all 4 before we're done. Number 1. Taxes, because Uncle Sam never fully retires. Where your money lives matters. If the whole $800,000 sits in a traditional 401k or IRA, every dollar you withdraw gets taxed as ordinary income, so that $32,000 isn't really $32,000. After federal taxes, it lands closer to $28,000-$29,000, depending on your bracket. And if your state taxes retirement income, take another bite out of it. Roth money comes out tax-free. Beautiful. Brokerage accounts get capital gains treatment, which is usually friendlier. The dream setup is all 3 buckets, so you can mix and match withdrawals every year and keep your tax bill on a permanent diet. Even in retirement, tax planning isn't optional, it's just quieter. Oh, and one more fun fact. Depending on your total income, up to 85% of your Social Security benefit can be taxed. Yes, they can tax the benefit that was funded by taxes you already paid. It's like paying a cover charge to leave the club. Number 2. Healthcare, the plot twist industry. Retire at 65 and Medicare has you covered, mostly. You still got premiums, a supplement or an advantage plan, plus dental, vision, and hearing, which original Medicare treats like optional luxuries, as if teeth were a hobby. Budget $6,000 to $8,000 a year per person and you're in realistic territory. But if you want out early, say 60 or 62, there's a gap before Medicare arrives, and private health insurance in your early 60s can run $800 to $1,500 a month, depending on subsidies. That's not a line item, that's a lifestyle.
Early retirees with 800K absolutely need a healthcare bridge plan, or the bridge collapses with them standing on it. Number 3, sequence of returns risk, the silent portfolio killer. Lean in for this one because this is the mistake I mentioned at the top. Picture two retirees. Both start with $800,000. Both average 7% returns over 25 years. Both withdraw the exact same amounts. One runs out of money, the other dies with more than they started with. How is that possible? The order of the returns. If the market drops 30% in your first 2 years of retirement while you're selling shares to pay the bills, you're locking in losses on a shrinking pile, and the portfolio never recovers because you kept draining it at the bottom. It's like trying to fill a bathtub while your dog drinks out of it during a drought, and the dog is a Great Dane. Get lucky, and the crash comes in year 15 instead. Barely a scratch. Same returns, different order, completely different retirement. Your entire financial future can hinge on which decade you happen to be born in. Comforting, I know. But here's the defense, and it works. A war chest. 2 to 3 years of expenses in cash or short-term bonds. When the market throws a tantrum, you live off the cash and leave your stocks alone to heal. No panic selling, no locking in losses. Retirees who survive a bad early market almost always had this buffer. The ones who didn't, well, they write very sad YouTube comments. Number 4. Inflation, the slow leak. $4,666 a month feels great today. At 3% inflation, 20 years from now, you'll need about $8,600 a month to buy the same life. Social Security gets cost of living adjustments, which helps, but your portfolio has to keep growing to keep pace. The good news, a sensible mix of stocks and bonds handles this for you. You don't need to gamble. You just need to stay invested enough that your money keeps outrunning your grocery bill for the next 30 years. That's why a 65-year-old can't park everything in a savings account earning 0.5%. You're not avoiding risk when you do that. You're just choosing a slower, sneakier one. Inflation is the roommate who never pays rent but somehow always eats your leftovers. So, let's bring it home. Can you actually retire on $800K? My honest take, for a huge share of Americans, $800,000 plus Social Security isn't just enough, it's comfortably enough. The median retirement balance for Americans in their 60s is dramatically lower than $800K. We're talking a fraction of it. If you've got 800 grand, you are so far ahead of the pack can't even see your taillights. But whether it becomes a great retirement or a stressful one comes down to 5 questions. Grab a pen if you want, because this is the actual checklist. Question 1. Is your housing handled? Paid off house or cheap housing, easy mode. Big mortgage or big city rent, hard mode. We just watched the same $800,000 produce a surplus in one zip code and a shortfall in another. Housing was the entire difference. Question 2. What do you actually spend? Not what you think you spend, what you actually spend. Track 3 real months of expenses. Most people are off by 20% and never in the fun direction. Nobody ever discovers they secretly spend less than they thought. Question 3. When are you claiming Social Security? Filing at 62 versus waiting until 70 can mean a difference of 75% or more in your monthly check for the rest of your life. For a lot of people with $800,000, the winning move is spending a little more from the portfolio in the early years and letting that Social Security check grow, like a fine wine or a chia pet, whatever motivates you. Question 4. Do you have a cash buffer? 2 to 3 years of expenses out of the market, boring and safe. In my book, that's non-negotiable. It's the difference between riding out a crash and getting flattened by one. And question 5. What does retirement cost you emotionally? Nobody talks about this one. Some people retire with plenty of money and go stir-crazy inside 6 months. They spent 40 years being needed somewhere every morning, and suddenly the calendar is just empty. Money funds a retirement. Purpose runs it. Answer those 5 questions well, and $800,000 stops being a countdown clock. It becomes a launch pad. So let's go back to our 2 guys. The one with $812K and the sad turkey sandwich, and the one with $300K and the Tennessee bass photos. Here's the truth. The fisherman isn't winning because of his balance. He's winning because he knows his numbers. His housing is cheap. His spending is dialed in. His Social Security plan is set. His cash buffer is sitting there, boring and beautiful. And he decided, out loud, on purpose that Tuesday mornings on the water are worth more than another year under fluorescent lights. The 812K guy doesn't have a money problem, he has a clarity problem. And clarity is free. Well, free-ish. You do have to do a little math, but we just did most of it together, so you're welcome. Before you go, drop your number in the comments, the amount you think you need to retire. And be honest, because last time I asked, somebody wrote 14 million minimum, and I still need to know what kind of retirement includes a yacht and a submarine. Thanks for spending part of your day with me. Stay smart, stay invested, and I'll see you in the next one.